Good afternoon and welcome to Libertarian Counterpoint podcast. We are coming at you on September 25th, 2020, and this will be a special edition of our show. We're planning on trying to give a voter guide on some of the California propositions. So for some of you guys who are listening outside of California, kind of give you a little bit of a heads up on some of the, crazy stuff that people are trying to pass here in California, and also, some of these issues carry over as well. So, maybe that insight will help you out a little bit. But to kick off the show, I wanted to introduce you to the. So the way this is currently laid out, just underneath me, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. And below him is Leon the Word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is an engineer from the state of California. And so once again, crazy times, elections coming up, in just about a little over a month away right now, actually. And so this episode is to try to some of those propositions that have just come out. And so we've got the ballot guide here in front of you, and you can look this up online yourselves. Just look for California Voter Information Guide, I think, and it's at one of the state websites. So anyways, there are 14 through 25, and we're going to try and get through as many as we can in this episode, and if we need it, we will carry some of these propositions over to a following episode. So let's jump right into Proposition 14. So Proposition 14 is a proposition to push stem cell or bonds for stem cell research in the state of California. It's $5.5 billion in bonds to push that. And, we'll find out what our panel thinks. And afterwards, I'll let you know also what Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association says about it as well. So one of you guys want to jump in on this one?
I say no. And hell no to Proposition 14. Just to be clear.
Don't hold back.
Here we go again. They always tell us they're going to fund all these wonderful things that's going to help us become better human beings. And what do they do with the money? They mismanagement. They always mismanage it. The state is funding also the environmental crap right now. Why don't they stop some of that crap and fund this if they think it's so important? I say no. Hell no to Prep 14.
Yeah, well, that's the last word right there. Hell no. Or two words. Hell no, yeah. I mean, it's like, the state of California is on such strong economic footing right now with tons of extra money laying around that, sure, they can go into debt for another $1.5 billion. What's that for research? No, if the research is so important, let's let the private marketplace fund it. And if there's something there, I'm sure that they'll be able to dig up that $1.5 billion. And meanwhile, leave the beleaguered taxpayers of California alone, and that's probably going to be said about a lot of these propositions coming up.
Yes.
And just to jump in myself, I as much as I like scientific research, I think in concurring with my other two panelists that the research is something that should mostly be left to the private sector to fund, and especially given, as Tim alluded to, the current fiscal or financial standing of the state of California. I mean, they just released that, we're over $54 billion in deficit in the middle of this COVID crisis. And that was several months ago when I mentioned that. So, who knows where we're at this point. This is just yet another $5.5 billion thrown on the pile. And to let you know, Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association also says no on Prop 14. So we have a unanimous consent for that.
But do they say hell no?
And just one closing thought about this. I mean, this thing is so obscene to me, is that it's obligating future generations to take care of the commitments that we are about to make. So this thing is bad all the way around. So again, no, hell no. Okay.
So the hell no. That's the consensus. So moving on to Prop 15. So Prop 15 is essentially an erosion of our Proposition 13. Yeah, people often hear about Prop 13. That was a past proposition passed years and years ago in California to protect homeowners from having property taxes increase too much, as you know, people in this state like to spend lots of money, as we just saw in this stem cell one on Prop 14. You know, there's always money in this state, and so the idea was that they wanted to put protection in for property owners that the property tax could only increase by like 1.5%, something like that per year, so that it would be kind of predictable to people and they wouldn't be priced out of their homes on taxes in this state. And so the Prop 15 actually removes that protection, not from homeowners, but from businesses, because businesses also got that protection as well. And so my personal thought on this one, and just jumping in, is that in theory, I think it would be a lot more fair if all of us had, you know, just our property taxes based on whatever the market rate is. But we've just seen that if there's no protections in this state, you know, we'll just be priced out of our homes and businesses by people with all kinds of good ideas on how to spend our money for us. And so anyway, I would say no on Prop 13. You guys want to jump in? Or 15, excuse me.
15. Yeah, they're all jumbled. Yeah. Again, no and hell no. Again. The thing that is deceptive about this thing is that if you look at some of the arguments, you're talking about funding schools and all this sort of things. The schools do not need more funding. They need more competition. That's what the schools need. They don't need this damn nonsense. So I say no and hell no to 15.
Yeah, if we're going to live in a monetary system that continually inflates or deflates, I should say, inflates the currency, and thus deflates the value of the currency, and we see that with real property and commodities and anything else, actually, or most anything else, unless it's your big screen TV that has the advantage of economy of scale and increasing technology and so on. And even in spite, well, you know, if it wasn't for the inflation, they'd even be cheaper. So, but with houses, so much of the increase in value is just from is historically they have paralleled the inflation rate, and so. It incentivizes government entities to increase taxes with Prop 15 style propositions by having a reward from the government's inflating the currency and deflating its value. So I think hey, wait a second, we get hit first by the deflated value of the currency, and then at the same time, to add insult to injury, they wish to tax us at rates based on those inflated amounts. I say, hey, you know what, you guys, oops. That knucklehead, knucklehead.
No, sorry. That was just a computer burp.
Completely. Okay, yeah, that happens. So yeah, stop, making the currency less valuable. Okay, and then your tax monies on the real property that was originally based on the purchase price of that real property. It'll stay the same. You won't see such a hit to your tax bottom line because of that. Okay, so if we're stuck in the 5th century on the value of our home-based tax rate, then maybe we ought to be stuck in the 5th century on the value of our money too. Okay.
But and perhaps too that if they didn't have so much incentive to drive up the price of property in order to get better, tax rates, then maybe we wouldn't have the housing crisis we have as well. Anyways,
yeah, that's a good point too. That's another good point. But it incentivizes them, and people keep voting this kind of nonsense. Well, maybe they won't. We'll see. But
but you see, they always do these deceptive tactics to try and get us to vote for these things. Oh, let's do it for the children. That's the damn nonsense you always hear. Let's do it for the children. We need to fund schools. Oh my God, let's do this. Let's do that. And they never do. It never works out that way.
Or we're the most heavily funded, yet as the funding goes per student goes higher, the results of the educational system and the test scores of those students goes down or stays the same. Or just okay, let's.
In the interest of the children, we got to move along.
The host.
But I do want to also let people know Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association also said no on 15. So it was a unanimous no from the panel. Unanimous hell no. Okay.
No and hell no.
Yes. Now, what I would like to, this one is sort of near and dear to me coming up, is Prop 16. So that's one where essentially they want to allow for affirmative action in California. And to do that, they essentially have to remove the following language from our Constitution. So they're going to remove this. Keep in mind, this is something that's already in our Constitution. The state shall not discriminate against or grant preferential treatment to any individual or group on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, national origin, in operation of public employment, public education, or public contracting. Now, excuse me, I thought that was King's dream that we have there in the Constitution, and these guys want to remove King's dream from the Constitution, that people will be judged.
Yeah.
Could imagine
not on the basis of their race. But anyways, so my personal thought on that is hell no. I'll let you guys jump in on that.
Martin Luther King told us very clearly that he wanted his children to live in a nation where they are judged, not by the color of the skin, but by the content of their character. So instead of us judging by the content of our character, or by the color of our conduct, or by the capacity of our competence, now these wise legislators want to institutionalize Jim Crow again. Now we want to use race and sex, ethnicity, and national origin to determine who should get jobs and who should get contracts. This is Jim Crow again. This is the reinstitutionalization of Jim Crow. And we don't need that in America in 2020. I thought the civil rights movement came into place so that people can be judged by their qualities that they develop, their content of their character that they have. Not this damn nonsense. No and hell no again.
Yeah, I just have to agree, and I admire the candor of the people behind it, because they at least admit that this will allow them to institute affirmative action to whatever subgroups or minorities or classes of people they wish to extend those privileges to. And it's been holding them back, this language, because they admit the 14th Amendment covers the discrimination aspect of it. And they think it also, though, I thought was kind of odd, the 14th Amendment also prevents, affirmative action style things, because that's discriminatory in the other direction. So anyway, it's dumb. Let's just keep it as is.
Well, that's a good point, Tim, that this may run afoul of federal law as well. So as far as the equal protection clause that you mentioned. But another thing, too, you guys mentioned the people behind it. So the brainchild of this one is Loretta Gonzalez, who we also have to thank for AB 5 as well, the one gig workers. We'll be talking about another proposition coming up that deals with that, trying to fix some of the problems created by that. And she is also the one who told what's his name, Elon Musk, when he said he was thinking of leaving for Texas, she said "F you" in a tweet. So that's the kind of legislative brain power we have pushing this particular proposition. So, anyways, that's a unanimous no from the group.
Who was this? Who was this, by the way?
Loretta Gonzalez, I believe is her name, or Lorena.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember which one, but she is the one who pushed AB 5 as well, I believe. So, anyway, just wanted to let you guys know that. And Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association have a position on this one, probably because maybe they don't see any tax implications on it. So moving along to Prop 17. So Prop 17 allows parolees to vote and hold office. So I guess currently that isn't allowed, I guess, and this one would allow for that. So did either of you guys want to jump in on that one?
I don't mind the restoration of voting rights to ex-convicts. I don't mind it. However, I do mind them coming out of prison today and having a voting right restored tomorrow or next week. I do mind that. If you look at recidivism rate, you are talking about almost 50% of convicts, ex-cons, I should say, end up back in prison within 1 year. And I think it's like 2/3 within 3 years or within 5 years, some number like that. I think these people have to prove that they are upstanding citizens before they should be given their voting rights. So I would suggest, if they want to amend this thing to make it a 7-year waiting period before their voting rights could be restored, I will support it. But as it is presently worded, no. I say no. I wouldn't say hell no to this one, but I'll say no to it.
Well, that's progress for you. He won't say hell no. Gosh, yeah, it's just for people on parole, apparently. Those that have completely served their sentences and are released, they've already been, I don't know what the time period is. I don't think it's 7 years, but they get their voting rights back. It's just for parolees that, so, they let them out of prison and they're on parole. Now they could violate parole and get sent back into prison, or you could be completely out of prison, not on parole, and have your voting rights, and then you could commit another crime and get thrown back into prison. So, I see where, that's a good point Leon made about, let's wait and see, because it's easier to get thrown back into prison when you're on parole than it does when you're completely done with your sentencing. So, I don't know. I'm kind of vague on this one, so I really don't have a lot of concrete stuff to add.
Okay. Personally, too, I'm a little bit iffy on it. It's one of those things where I certainly think, in principle, if somebody has done something extraordinarily antisocial to society, committing crimes against other people, they should have at least paid for their crime before getting their right to vote back, meaning they've served their sentence, so they wouldn't be on parole. However, we have so many crazy laws that are putting people in. They're arresting people for not wearing masks nowadays. So, I do get a little bit concerned that, maybe we have some people who, are otherwise responsible people in an irresponsible legal system. But I think in general, I would tend to side no on this one. But I can definitely see an argument for the other side on this. Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association does not take a position on this one.
No, so I am not. And just to be clear, I am not saying that their citizenship should not be restored. I am just saying that I need to see. These people have a bunch of antisocial baggage next to their name. Yeah. And I don't see why they should be helping in the determination of the direction of this country until they have shown that they have gotten rid of this antisocial behavior that they have engaged in. So all I'm saying, I don't mind the restoration. I'm just saying I want a waiting period before that restoration can occur. And I think 7 years is a good time.
Not to be too antisocial, but we've got to move on to the next one. All right. That's a soft no from the group on 17. Sorry. Okay, Proposition 18. So 18 allows 17-year-olds to vote in a primary election if they would be of legal age when the actual election comes up in the fall, I guess. And so this is one that essentially would just expand the voting rights of 17-year-olds. Do you guys want to jump in on that?
I say no to that. Okay, it's bad enough for 18-year-olds voting. Okay, I say no. However, though, even even though I mean, at 18, we do send our young kids off to war and to possibly die. So at 18, it's we already made that decision as a society. But I certainly don't want to take this anywhere below 18 as it is right now. So I say no to this. Not hell no, but no.
Okay. Yeah, I just have one condition. Because the United States Militia Acts have established 17 as the age at which we are required to become militia members. I think that number one, they should 17-year-olds should be able to purchase and own a firearm. Number one, and if they're in the militia, they got to have a firearm. Okay, so they get to buy them and they get to keep them and kind of total control over them at 17 throughout the nation. And any states that have laws against that, those laws are unconstitutional because it says right there in the Constitution and I think it's even in the Declaration that militia membership begins at 17. So number one, yeah, they can go ahead and vote too at 17, and never mind what age they're going to be when the general election occurs. That's convoluted, if you ask me. But I think they ought to be voting at 17 if and only if they can also own firearms at the age of 17 as a condition of their membership in the militia of whatever that state is that they belong to.
Well, Tim, it sounds like that's a new proposition you should propose.
They'll all go like this. No way. That guy's crazy.
Well, as far as on principle,
militia act my foot.
Well, on principle, I think I'm kind of on board with you guys on this one. My main thought is that a person should be of legal age to bind them to bind themselves to a contract before they can bind others to a contract, and that's what you're doing when you go to vote. Now, maybe 17 should be that age. I don't know, but whatever age it is, I think we've all got to stick to it, and it should be one age for everything that we say. Is legal age to bind yourself to a contract. So I would vote no, just to keep it coordinated on 18. And Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association also says no to that one. So now moving on to 19, hopefully we can squeeze that one in. It's similar on a Prop 13 issue. That is one where essentially potentially erodes Prop 13 a little bit. What happens is it allows people who are 55 and older to be able to transfer their Proposition 13 tax protection throughout the state. So like, for instance, if somebody was retired and they wanted to move from one county to another, you could keep your tax basis in that move. This would give that protection. However, it has some other sort of catches in there where essentially it allows for a lot of properties to also jump back up to market value. Like, for instance, if a family member doesn't move into that house within a year or something like that. So there's a few different catches, and essentially it will wind up raising a net. They're expecting it'll raise a few $100 million, is what it says here in the for different, I think that's for counties, I think. So a local government could gain tens of millions of dollars per property tax revenue year. So my personal thought is no, it's an erosion of 13. But what do you guys think?
Well, the main thing that bothers me about I'm sorry, Tim, go ahead. Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and just hold that thought, Leon. And I was just going to say, instead of continually looking for ways to squeeze more money out of us, maybe look for ways to stop spending so much, because revenues have gone up. Revenues are way up, and yet spending is up, outpacing the revenues. So, except for this, COVID, a little time out there, but And that was only because they shut everybody down. So, hey, just look for ways to stop spending instead of trying to squeeze every last dime out of our poor, depleted bank accounts.
Well, speaking of squeeze, can we squeeze you in real quickly on
Oh, the thing that bothered me about this is they're going to tax inherited property. I have a real problem with that, so I say no and hell no to this.
Okay. I think we have a consensus of no again on this one, and Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association also says no. And with that, we are running up to near the end of the show, and it is time for our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. So let me see, what do we have on the, what do our knuckleheads have for us today? Let's see, so apparently Princeton University president Christopher Eisgruber recently wrote a letter to his campus that says racism and the damage it does to people of color nevertheless persists at Princeton as in our society, sometimes by conscious intentions, but more often through unexamined assumptions and stereotypes, ignorance or insensitivity, and systemic legacy of past decisions and policies. So he said that, and that triggered a response from Betsy DeVos's Department of Education that said, well, Princeton has admitted to racism, which raises the question about the accuracy non-discrimination and equal opportunity assurances that they made to the Department of Education in exchange for more than $75 million of federal money. And so with that, they're saying, hey, we've got to investigate you guys now, because, and it really goes back to the issue of all of these people who want to prostrate themselves to say, without talking about evidence of how racist everything is and how racist. And so essentially he's been called on it. He said, we're so racist and we really want to do the right thing. So, okay, if you're racist, there's a penalty for that.
Of course. I think Betsy DeVos is absolutely right on this. These white liberals who think they're going to save us, they're going to keep talking this damn nonsense, and these things are going to keep on happening. That's why I hope Trump wins this election. I really do hope so, because I want more of these people to be investigated. Since they want to sit down there and talk about, oh, we're so racist and we want to fix the problem, fine, let's fix the problem. I want to see more lawsuits when they claim they're so racist. Oh my goodness, we're not treating minorities right. We're not treating black people right. So, oh God, we got to do something about it. Well, yes, let's do something about it. I want all of these people to be investigated since they want to admit their racism. Please do it.
What was this guy, the school guy that said this? What was his last name?
He's the president of Princeton University.
It was Eisgruber.
Yeah, he's the president of Princeton University.
Gruber. Eisgruber. Okay.
Eisgruber or something else.
What a goober. Yeah. Should have been Eisgruber instead of Gruber, but that's okay. And that's like the bad guy from the movie, what you call it, Die Hard, Hans Gruber. But this guy's Eisgruber. Okay. Yeah. There you go.
Well, that's our Libertarian Counterpoint for you today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope we helped you on your voting decisions. And we have more propositions for our next show, so please join us again for then. We'll look forward to seeing you at the next show. Thanks so much.
Yep. Toodle.